Hey guys, Chris here from Cohesive Friendship Unit. I am with Brian
What's going on?
and Jeremy.
Hey yo, what up?
And it looks like a Nintendo representative, Vice President of Sales and Marketing, Doug Bowser, had an interesting quote to say about the Nintendo Switch. But real quick, if you like this video, throw us a like. Please let us know what you think down below. And if you love us, sub us. That sub enters you in a giveaway. So, again, Mr. Doug Bowser said, between playing the Switch docked and undocked, it is about even. About 50% are playing dock and 50% are playing away from dock, which would include like tabletop play or fully handheld play. So that kind of, I think, at least to me, like when I read that, I was thinking, oh, because a lot of people were saying when they bought the Switch, like, oh, I'm just going to use this as a handheld, or I'm just going to use this docked. It's just the next Nintendo console. A lot of people kind of had in their mind this like static use one way or another, or heavily swayed use one way or another. And I'm wondering if kind of like Nintendo's idea of this like handheld hybrid is panning out well, is successful, has a potential future, just kind of based on it being like a year and a half later, and we have Mr. Bowser, Mario's boy, kind of backing up some of the stats that you would think would point towards like a successful vision to actuality of a product.
Well, I don't know. I guess it kind of does confirm that, it's working as a kind of crossover handheld, or what do you call it? Hybrid.
Yeah.
Because like if you'd expect most people to use it about 50-50, right? If they're using it as you intended, you'd use it on the go.
Yeah.
And you use it plugged in. And if you have enough users, which they certainly do because they've sold a fuck ton of the things, then it's gonna be your bathtub curve, right?
Yeah.
And your middle's gonna be your middle, which is 50%, which I would say the statistics pretty much shows that they're successful in their mission. Case closed.
All right, we'll catch you guys next time. No, okay.
So I'll just go on the record and say that I'm a little skeptical
About Bowser? You don't trust Bowser?
You don't trust Bowser? So, interestingly, back in October, I think we also touched on this back then, Nintendo, this is from the same Ars Technica report, Nintendo shared an investor presentation showing roughly 30% of early Switch owners, quote-unquote, primarily using their systems undocked. So that was in an investor presentation where you're legally obligated to be honest with your investors. In this case, he did not actually share the raw data with Ars Technica. It's just a quote where he says, like, yeah, about 50% of the time. About 50-50. And it's just to some guy. It's just to a reporter. I don't think he's being wildly inaccurate, but, like, about half could mean a lot of things. And I just think it bears mentioning that when we saw the data less than a year ago, it said something different than now, and I don't know what would have precipitated a major shift in how people are using their consoles, other than what it says at the bottom, which is that some games seem to be played almost exclusively either docked or undocked. Mm-hmm. Like, apparently Just Dance, obviously, is played just docked, so maybe that came out since October, and that skewed the numbers away from what they were before. So I don't think that really necessarily provides an accurate picture of how people prefer to use the system, but maybe how it is being used kind of de facto. So it's a similar but related point.
Well, yeah, I'd be interested to see like the trends over time, like more data on that, but we're not going to get it.
No, of course not.
So, I mean, that I was kind of thinking about that trend over time. Like, I think when you get a new toy, you have like kind of rose-tinted glasses, and you try to use it. You
play with the features. Yeah, you play with the features.
You play with the features, and you think of the marketing that was done, and you don't try to act on it, but like you're like, oh yeah, I can take it on the go, and maybe that wears off after a while. Maybe.
But the marketing was that you could do both. So don't you think if by that logic, when you got your new toy, you'd want to like do as much of both as possible, as opposed to just leaning into your inclinations.
Exactly. Like like not like forcing yourself into scenarios, but
no, I kind of know what you mean. Like you want to explore it a little bit, and you're still swayed by the marketing. But I think that actually would that to me would suggest that people initially would use it more in a more balanced way towards undocked and docked. But that doesn't seem to be the case.
Yeah.
If this is true, which it probably is, just
Well, if you give them significant leeway, like if you give them 10%, it's 60-40, which is still pretty damn good.
Yeah.
Like things like this tend to go one way or the other. You know what I mean? Like it's either not really enough to recommend it as a dock thing to bother putting it in the dock, or it's not a good enough portable to bother ever taking it out of the dock. But they seem to have hit a nice balance with what they've done.
And the other thing I'd be interested to see is now the exact quote here from Bowser is undocked Switch play or undocked play on the Switch is quote about even, about 50% in the dock, about 50% away from the dock, end quote. So to me, that could also just mean that about half of players, about half the time when people, generically speaking, are using it, it's being docked or undocked. That could just mean that half the people use it docked all the time, and half the people use it undocked all the time, which might not mean that people are actually using it as a...
That's true.
What's it called? What do we call it? Hybrid.
Yeah.
That people aren't actually using it as a hybrid system, but maybe the hybrid system appeals to both sets of people, which could be equally valuable.
Yeah, and I mean the report in like October, that had more of that kind of breakdown where they said 30% are primarily undocked, 20% are primarily docked, and then there's that gray area in the middle 50%, which is, that still points to about 50% of people
doing both.
Docked in it, yeah. Well, and I think I have to disagree with you, Jay, because like even if you're arguing that it's 50-50, take it to the extreme that half of the people use it docked all the time and half of the people use it docked none of the time.
Right.
Like there has to be something about the product that those two groups of people find simultaneously.
There's a Venn diagram.
They find opposite things appealing, but the other thing like completely non-appealing. You know what I'm saying? Like
that's what I was saying.
Some overlap there.
Yeah, that's what I was saying. So it might not be that it's a hybrid console, and though Chris just made a great point based on our earlier data, but like it might not be that it's a hybrid console and everyone is using it half and half. It might be that it's a hybrid console, and that means that half of people are like, this is a great handheld, and half of people are like, this is a great home console.
Yeah.
The reality is probably a mix of all.
I don't know what Jake's usage is on his Switch, but I use mine undocked primarily because I travel with it. But that doesn't mean that I don't use it docked. It means that I use it to travel with, if that makes sense. Like when I'm playing
when you're using it most heavily, like you're traveling and it's undocked.
Like I happen to be, and that's why I like it, because like I can't bring my PC with me on the train, but I can bring this on the train. So like, and when I'm like deep into a game, I will dock it. Like if I want to finish it, or like if I'm doing another run of Zelda, or if I'm like 80% of the way through the game after I'm done traveling, and I know that I'm close to the end and I want to finish the end, and I'm at home in my apartment, then I'll definitely dock it and play it. But yeah,
I think any way you slice it, it's a successful hybrid console based on the old data and whatever we glean from this new statement of this new article.
I do wonder. So my biggest issue, and this is funny because I primarily do it portably, but I think, like Brian was saying earlier, you usually have these hybrid things, like it's like jack of all trades, master of none, or it's just so bad at one of the things that like it's just not even worth it for one of the features. And I think the portable part could have been totally butchered. I think it's so close to being on the edge of being like bad, because the battery life is only 3 hours. It's that's
you're pushing a huge display though.
Oh yeah, no, I'm still impressed, and I find that the 3 hours works because if I'm playing it at lunch, that's 40 minutes or whatever. That's not. I don't need it for more than that. Or on the trolley, that's 20 minutes. I don't need it for 3 hours straight. But I think they were cutting it real close there.
And I think if the screen were any smaller, then it would not be comfortable to use for the sort of games that we've come to expect for a home console. You can't play Breath of the Wild on a screen smaller than the Switch. I think it's already cramped on the Switch.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So I'm saying, they couldn't have made it any smaller to accommodate a larger battery. They couldn't have made it any bigger to accommodate, a bigger screen, but sacrificing battery life. So yeah, I agree that it's right on the line, but he pulls it off.
And I think you could also argue it's right on the line in the docks too, where it is seemingly struggling to get some of those we're getting Wolfenstein tomorrow as of the date of this recording, but we're not getting a lot of day and date third party AAA games. So
yeah.
Well, I mean, that's kind of Nintendo for you.
That is also kind of
They have their flock, and they just kind of stick with their flock, and
yeah,
nobody else really develops for Nintendo.
But I mean, the fact that they could get Wolfenstein running at all I think that's worth mentioning.
Well, I'm sure there's some horsepower under there. I mean, you can really put quite a bit into a tablet these days.
Yeah, and it's more powerful than a Wii U, which impresses me.
Yeah, I mean, you can get laptops that are more powerful than a desktop PC. Just because the thing's fucking big doesn't mean it's powerful.
Yeah.
And I think that this is probably pretty good. They don't really care how people are using it, because I would expect that a lot of the stuff in here is off-the-shelf components. It's not Nintendo developed the screen and Nintendo developed this and that. They bought a bunch of stuff, they put it together in basically a bog standard gaming tablet with a little twist.
Yeah, I mean,
then they took it to the fucking bank, man.
It is funny to think so it's an NVIDIA Tegra, which is a system on a chip, and that shit is in a lot of things. It's in the NVIDIA
Shield, isn't it?
Yeah, it's in the Shield. It's in a bunch of Android kind of Roku-esque kind of Android docked stations for your TV. And none of those, I mean, I guess the Shield did okay, but this is the same chip, and you throw the big N and some software and a undockable feature, and you're good to go.
One word, dude,
around the N word. You start throwing around the N word.
Oh,
money comes in real fast.
I think that's a really good point, and they do have. When you're talking Nintendo, you're talking all of Nintendo and all the shit that they have access to.
I guess here's the follow-up question, right? So I think we all basically agree that it's been a successful hybrid console based on this info, and the sales numbers have been good. So just not to get into a big conversation, but do we think that they continue doing this in the future?
I am. Go ahead, Brian.
This meaning hybrid console?
I think I know both of your answers, but...
Cool. Yeah, Chris, go ahead.
All right, so on the one hand, a big part of this happening, in my mind, was a lot of people were upset at the cadence of games coming out on the Wii U, and I think this was an effort to consolidate Nintendo's mobile and home divisions so that they can have a consistent schedule. So on the one hand, I think that it will continue. It's also successful, and it differentiates them, and it's a gimmick, but it's a good gimmick. On the other hand, I am still in the camp that this is ultimately going to become Nintendo's next handheld console. It's going to be the next 3DS, and they're going to push out a proper home console. I'm still in that camp. It's going to devolve into an exclusive handheld unit that's going to sell for $150 or whatever. It's going to play Switch games. It's just going to be a handheld Switch, and then they're going to push out some new thing.
They'll call it the Nintendo Switched.
Yeah.
See, here I disagree with you. I think that this is kind of going to be the way, and I think I had agreed with you at some point in the past, but I'm revising that. Like, it makes too much sense for them to keep doing this because of like the price point, and the mobile technology is only going to keep getting better. The processors are only going to get more efficient. The screens are only going to get, like, the power consumption is going to go down, and batteries are going to get better. So in 5 years, there may realistically be no difference between a home console, unless you're talking like super high power, something you're pushing a big display that you don't want on portable anyway, which has never been Nintendo's thing. I don't think that it makes sense to make one thing in a portable with a screen on it and another thing that you plug into a screen, and it's just the same thing in a box, effectively. Because that's, the power that you're getting in, a cell phone and a gaming console, it's kind of coming together, if you see what I'm saying. It's not in PC category yet, but like that sort of tier of stuff, it's fairly comparable in terms of like processing power and RAM and stuff like that. The consoles usually have more storage, but flash storage is really tiny and it's cheap nowadays. So why would you make a console? It just doesn't really make a whole lot of sense to me. If you're not the company that wants to wow people with visuals, which it seems like Sony is that company now, because Microsoft is off doing their own thing.
They're doing
they're doing whatever they're doing.
They're a company, technically.
I think Nintendo knows their market. I think they know what they're aiming for, and I think that they hit it with this, and they're going to keep doing something in this vein. I think you'll see the dedicated portable go away, and this will be the new quote-unquote portable console where you'll be able to plug it into your TV and it'll have similar power to a non-portable console would.
That's a good point.
Both good points.
What do you think, Jay?
I'm actually a little bit the opposite. I think I've moved a little bit towards what you were saying, Chris. I think that there's some chance that the Switch could become their new portable console, and I think that they'll probably try something new because that's the philosophy of the company, I guess. And I generally don't think that sort of thing like matters. But I don't know. Nintendo's really weird. Like, they do weird shit.
They do weird shit.
And I think that like Nintendo execs are going to be like, gotta make creative gaming console revolutionary, and then they'll be like, this one you like operate with your fucking ears. It's something, I don't know, but
it's all Labo from here on out. We're only making next
Zelda
is Labo exclusive.
Motion gloves, or like they'll do some crazy shit. I don't know.
What if that became like your home console was something that you had to have at home because part of the game was physically interacting with something?
That's
like if your home console became, it's not on the TV anymore, you're playing with essentially a sensor package, but it's not a TV game anymore.
Yeah.
This is what the home console is now. I can see that, man. I can see that. Because the Labo's been hugely successful.
It's big.
People were fucking hype about that shit.
I think for what it is, it's done better than expected.
Yeah, for what it is.
It's done better than I expected.
It's fucking cardboard,
expectations. It is fucking cardboard. It's $80
and an
cardboard.
SD card. Okay.
And an SD card.
There you go. But Brian, I think you also laid out a perfectly, I think that's also a very plausible case. I think that they're both plausible, and I think Nintendo doesn't know yet. I was just curious what you thought.
Cool. All right, my dudes. I think we're good.
Yeah, I think we're good.
Yeah.
Tell them how good we are, Brian.
How good we are? Well, I don't know. If you guys are kind of just wondering what Microsoft is doing for the kids, Nintendo's trying to get in. They got the kids market all tied up. Sony's got games for kids and shit like that. Microsoft is like, I don't know, man. So they're probably going to come out with like a thing that, it'll be the hip thing. You put it in your ear and it controls your mind and uploads it to Microsoft servers.
The
and
cloud.
Then your kids will be blue screening every 45 minutes, so you won't have to smack them around at dinner time. If you think that's a good idea, let us know down in the comments there. And you guys know what to do with the ringy dingy. If you sub to our channel, we're gonna give you some free shit possibly. So that's one of the cool things that you'll know about if you click that one.
We're
And
9 subs away.
9 subs away, so it could be at any moment now. The clock is ticking. So smoke them if you got them, boys. That's all for me tonight, Chris.
All right. Thanks, Brian. We'll catch you guys next time.